If you're like most people I know, you more often than not fall into the comparison trap. I mean, it's so easy these days, especially with social media, to look at our friends and our families and to think, I wonder if we're measuring up. This can be especially true when it comes to parenting. I mean, you're at the park or the playground or picking your child up from school, or maybe you're even at a birthday party and you just start thinking to yourself, I wonder why my child isn't speaking as much as so and so. Or Jack really seems to come home to his parents and tell him all about his day, but my son doesn't do that. And then you start to think about, is my child where they should be for their speech and language? And it keeps you up at night and you start thinking and Googling, and then you go down this long rabbit hole. And believe me, I've talked to many families and parents who are in such a similar situation as you. And I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power. So today we're going to be talking about just a brief overview of developmental milestones when it comes to communication, so that you can feel empowered and confident in knowing if your child is on track with their development or if it's time to seek some additional support. If we have not met before, my name is Jessica Bawag, and I am the CEO and speech language pathologist at Fluence Children's Therapy, a pediatric speech therapy clinic outside of Tacoma, Washington. And I'm excited to be joining you today to talk about this. And this is a big topic. There's a lot of information that can go into it. So we're just going to do a real quick and dirty, brief overview of it. I'll drop a couple of links in the comments for resources on where you can get a better idea of what developmental milestones your child should be hitting. And just to start off, know that there is a range, not a big, but quite a big range of where your child should fall when it comes to speech and language. Some children develop a lot faster, others not as quickly, and that's okay. So just take this as a big picture, look at your child and see where they are falling when it comes to these milestones. But before we get into that, I wanted to go over a couple of brief definitions about speech and language and communication, because a lot of times we will hear those words being used interchangeably to mean the same thing, but there are some differences when it comes to that. So as you're kind of listening today, start to think of how speech and language can be different and how communication is an overall broader sense of it. And there'll be a lot of information I'm throwing at you today, so if you have any questions or comments, whether they're just general ones or specific to your child and what you're seeing, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer any questions as they come up. So first things first. When it comes to communication, I'll be using my nifty little board here today. So communication is kind of a catch-all term. It's a broader umbrella term. So we've got communication here at the top. And then underneath communication, we have speech and language. And again, a lot of people use them interchangeably, but there are differences between the two. So we've got speech on one side, and speech includes things like how your child is pronouncing the sounds. I mean, not just your child, but anybody. So we've got the sounds, you'll hear terms like articulation, or some people say pronunciation, enunciation, maybe a term like intelligibility, and that basically means how well is your child understood by other people. And then we've also got things like voice, which we don't talk a lot about when it comes to kids, but that is part of speech. And then we also have fluency, or more commonly known as stuttering. So all of that falls under the speech side of communication. And then on the other side, we have language. And language, in broad general terms, has to do with expressing thoughts. It also includes following directions or understanding what's being said. And then we also have vocabulary would fall under language, sentence structure, grammar, all of that falls into the language side of things. So we've got speech and language, both falling under communication, both a little different. And then we've also kind of got, in the midst of all of this, we've got hearing, which can affect both language and speech. And we've also got social skills, or what is also known as pragmatic language. So you'll see that communication is quite a broad topic. So again, today we're just going to go briefly through some developmental milestones so you have a sense and just a general idea of where kids should be landing as they are growing up and getting older, but know that there's a lot more that goes into this. But I want you to, again, knowledge is power. So be empowered and confident in knowing either when you do see a speech therapist, if it comes to that, or if you're looking up some blogs or articles on the internet and you're confused as to why they say speech for one thing and language for another, this is just a general overview of that. So let's get down to it. Let me flip over my page here. So when it comes to children getting older and developing speech and language, they will hit certain milestones. So around 1 year of age is when we first see kind of a big major milestone. But even before age 1, children are already developing speech and language by babbling or cooing, even as young as 3 months. Between birth and 3 months, kids will do things like startle to loud sounds. Maybe they'll smile when you speak to them. They start to recognize your voice, and when mom is coming in and trying to quiet them, they'll recognize that voice as compared to different tones of voice. They could increase or decrease certain behavior, and they start again to make some cooing sounds. So that would be more on the speech side of it. Cooing sounds, crying. So all of that happens even before 1 year of age. That's around 3 months. And then as they get older, 4 to 6 months, they start to use their eyes more intentionally to look in the direction of where sounds are coming from. They may notice different toys that make sounds, and that gets them excited. They pay attention to music. On the speech side of things, around 4 to 6 months, they'll be starting to play around what we call vocal play or vocal exploration with different sounds, lots of like pa 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 ba 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 ma ma ma. They're not really words just yet. They're just playing and exploring their mouth and their oral motor, their articulators, so their mouth, their lips, their jaw, to make different sounds. They may laugh more and with intention. So around 4 to 6 months, you'll really start to see kids playing with their voice more often. And then, like I said before, we've got 1 year of age, which is a big major milestone when we look at development. So at 1 year, we are really looking for them to start using their first word. And again, there is a range, so this could come in as early as about 10 months of age, maybe even as late as 14, 15 months of age, but around 1 year is when we start to see the first word coming up. And the first word is important. Again, before age 1, they're going to be doing a lot of vocal play, so ba 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 pa pa, different vowel sounds. But if the word isn't attached to a meaning, then it's not really their first true word. So we want to make sure that their first word is meaningful. And by that, I mean that it is attached to a person. So it's not just mama, ma, ba, 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 papa, but the mama actually means mom, or the dada actually means dad, or ba actually means ball. So the first word that's meaningful is coming up around 1 year of age. And again, that could be anywhere from 10 to 15 months or so. They should be doing a lot of babbling at this time at their age, lots of different exploration of their voice. So they should also have different voice pitches. They may rise as though they're asking a question, ba-da-ba-ba, something like that. So they start to babble and their voice pitch changes. They should start to be putting some strings of sounds together. When it comes to the understanding the language part of it, they're going to be enjoying more social games with people, peekaboo, patty cake, things like that. They should start to recognize words for common things. So things like their shoe, if you say, go get your shoes, do they go and look for them? Nice common vocabulary. So things like shoe, or car, or ball. They have a cup that they use. When you start to say, go get your cup, they start to look for it and they understand what that word means. Again, this is around 1 year of age. They use a lot more gestures to communicate. So waving high and by, giving high fives, lifting their hands to be picked up. Using gestures all around 1 year of age. And they should start to be imitating different sounds too. If you drop a cup on the floor and you say, uh-oh, they may be saying, uh-oh. So they are starting to imitate some basic sounds and words or expressions, imitate sounds or simple words. They may not understand the meaning of the words a lot, but they should start to imitate some of those sounds, especially. Then when we come up upon 2 years of age, and again, this could range from about 20 months to 27, 28 months, but they should start using 2-word phrases. So at 1 year, we've got their first word. At 2 years, they're starting to put words together. So 2-word phrases. And this could be things like, where kitty? Go bye-bye? What's this? So it could be common phrases that they use. They could also do things like more cookie or no juice, mommy book. So not complete sentences, and that's okay. That's what's expected at 2 years, just starting to put 2 words together to express themselves. And the sounds that they typically make around this age are, we've got so again, when it comes to speech sounds, we've got the vowels typically come first, and then we've got P, B, M, D, W, H, T. So around 2 years of age, that's the typical sounds that we hear. When it comes to the 2-word phrases, we often see that kids need at least 50 words in their vocabulary before they start to use 2-word phrases. So again, between 1 year and 2 years, they start with their first word at age 1, and then we really want to be seeing them continuing to include and improve their vocabulary by getting more words until age 50. If at any time your child is stalling or plateauing for weeks or months and they're not continuing to gain new words, that could be a red flag that something's going on. If your child is bilingual or exposed to 2 languages, they could be going through the silent period, but if there's only 1 language being used in the home, then that could be something to watch out for and monitor and seek some support if you're seeing a plateau or they're not continuing to gain new words. So again, like I mentioned at the beginning, if you've got questions or comments about your specific child or just general questions, feel free to drop them in below and I will take a look at them before we end our time together today. And then we've got age 3. So between 2 and 3 years of age, there's a big language burst between these ages. So really important time for you as parent or caregiver to be exposing your child to lots of language-rich environments. So narrating throughout your day, reading books, really responding to your child's communication and interactions, because this is a real crucial time for them to be gaining all of that knowledge when it comes to their speech and language. Around age 3, your child should be about 75% what we call intelligible. And like we said at the beginning, that means that other people can understand your child about 75% of the time. So the speech sounds that they're making sound more like adult speech, more and more the older they get. And at 3 years of age, they should be understood about 75% of the time, not just by mom and dad who are with them more often, but also by unfamiliar people. So maybe grandma and grandpa that don't see them all the time, or the clerk at the grocery store, or a friend of yours that may come over every now and then. Kind of take a look at that. If it's less than that, people are constantly having to say, what do they say? What do they say? For a lot of what your child is saying at 3 years of age, that could be a red flag and something to look out for when you're thinking about if your child may need some additional support. Also around age 3, they're starting to understand more. So they understand and can follow 2-step, follow 2 to 3-step directions. So around this age, they can understand simple directions like time to go, and maybe they'll go to the door, or it's time to eat and they go to eat. These are more routine, understand routine directions. But as they get older, they can understand more complex directions. So around age 3, it could be more like, go get your book and put it on the table. It's time for dinner. So a longer phrase, a longer direction, and they can understand that and follow that on their own at age 3. By age 3, they should have a word for almost everything, and they'll start, their attention increases, so they start to enjoy listening to stories and sitting down for longer periods of time. They might ask questions like, why? That's always a fun age, right? And maybe other simple questions like, where's mommy? Where's daddy? They may start to ask things like that. When it comes to speech sounds at age 3, we're looking at the sounds K, G, N, NG, so like the ing sound in words, F, and Y. Handwriting's getting a little messy there. F and Y. So those are some additional speech sounds that you should hear around age 3. And again, a big language burst between these years, so important to keep giving them that input. Now when it comes to age 4, their imagination and their understanding of language gets more sophisticated. So around age 4, we're looking at them being able to answer more questions. So they're answering questions like lots of different WH questions. When, why, how many questions. They're starting to have some simple conversations with you. At this point, their speech should be understood by everyone. So there should be no longer any questions of, I didn't get that, can you say it again, or tell me a different way. By age 4, they should be about 100% intelligible. They start to tell stories. They can tell you about their day. So again, the language is moving from just concrete things. Earlier, we talked about them having a word for each object or knowing who people are. Around age 4, they start to understand more complex, abstract concepts. If you ask them what they had for lunch, they can remember that. What did they do at school? Who are their friends? They can start planning for the future. What do you want to do when we go to grandma's house at Christmas time? All of those types of concepts start to emerge a lot more at age 4. They will start to ask more questions. So asking when and how questions. So when's dinner? Or when do I get to play on the phone? And again, they're starting to answer a lot more questions. Their speech is really starting to sound more like adult speech. And the sounds that come in at this age, these speech sounds, are more like L, J, the ch sound, the S, V, Z, S, H. So a lot more control over their tongue and their jaw, and they're figuring out where to put their tongue for certain sounds. So their speech should sound more crisp and clear around this age as well. Again, because most of the time, unfamiliar people can understand almost everything that they're saying. At age 5 is when we start to hit kind of the school years. So again, getting even more sophisticated and complex in their understanding and use of language, so they can start recalling parts of a story. They can start answering simple questions of stories. They can use more complex sentences, such as he's lost because he lost because I'm faster. So you can hear things like past tense verbs. So lost, the words, what we call conjunction or connecting words, because I am faster. So they're starting to use some grammar markers on there, using more grammar markers, such as faster, plurals, like horses. They'll have the ing, like we're going swimming. So really starting to develop their speech and their grammar in that way too. They may respond more quickly and easily to more complex directions. They'll understand the order of things. First, go get your backpack, then put on your shoes, and finally, it's time to get in the car. So understanding the order words. Or first go get your sister, then get a cookie, and I want you guys to share it. Order words, such as first, next, then, last. All of those words are starting to come in around age 5 as well. They use more, like we said, compound sentences. And they should start recognizing letters and numbers. So more of those academic types of skills as well come in around age 5. And then around age 6 is kind of our final that we'll talk about today. Of course, speech and language continues to develop as they get older, but these are the main ages where you see lots of growth and development. Around age 6 is when we get the speech sounds. Speech sounds here can be, back at 5 for a second, R, E, H, like J, and TH. And then around 6 years of age is really when they start to read. A lot of kids read simple words and stories. They will start writing some simple things too, writing words and maybe some short sentences. They will also understand more abstract concepts, such as concepts of time. So understanding like yesterday and tomorrow, time concepts, yesterday, or after we eat lunch, then we can go to the park. So again, that's, like I said, a quick and dirty overview of speech and language development as kids are growing up and getting older from about birth to age 6. If you're finding that your child is not meeting most of these milestones, I would recommend that you get an evaluation from a speech language pathologist. It doesn't hurt to just get checked out, even if you're not sure. Maybe you're on the fence. Maybe they're 5 years old, but they're not quite answering WH questions yet, or they don't have their L or their S in yet, and you're just not sure. They're close, but they're not quite there. For your own peace of mind and for just to ease frustration, I suggest that you get an evaluation done. At least you'll know, yes, they're on track, or no, they need some additional support. And it's so much easier for you and your child to get that support when they're younger, rather than continue to age and grow older and get frustrated. And then we see kids like they're 10, 11 years old and still working on some of these earlier speech sounds, and it's just harder to break that pattern, or they still need support in formulating sentences, and that's okay. Better late than never. But if you catch it early on, it's a lot easier for everyone. And then just in conclusion, to wrap it up, I would say, of course, we're proponents of getting help. That's what we do. That's what our passion and our love is, to help children and their families. But don't forget to meet your child where he or she is. Love them, support them, make sure that they feel that love and support, and just know that there is hope and there is solutions and encouragement and just acceptance of where your child is, regardless of where they fall on this. They're your child and you love them first and foremost. So I hope that was helpful. Feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comment box below, and I will be sure to also include some resources, because I know that was a lot of information that I went through quite quickly, and it's hard to read it all and keep it all straight. So I will see you guys next week for another conversation about communication, and I hope you enjoy your weekend.